Have you ever heard of a woman so beautiful, so dangerous, that every man who touched her lost everything? In the town of Baffo, there was one such woman. Her name was Camy, and around her waist was a bead that no man could resist, and no man survived. My children, stories like this carry heavy lessons. If you are learning from this tale, show your support by giving this video a like and share it so others may hear it too. Now, let us continue. My children, draw closer to the fire. Let the night embrace you, and let your ears open wide, for this is not a story told to entertain alone. It is a story of beauty, of power, of greed, of downfall, and of lessons carved deep into the bones of our town, Baffo. Even now, when the wind whistles through the trees at night, some swear they hear the faint jingling of beads, and their hearts grow cold. I was a young man when it began, yet old enough to know the ways of men and the weakness that dwells inside their hearts. I was there, and I saw it. So listen well, for what I tell you is true. It started quietly, without warning, like the first drop of rain that falls before a storm. One morning, in the market of Baffo, where women spread out baskets of yam, palm oil, groundnuts, and spices, and where men displayed fine cloths, iron tools, and livestock, a woman appeared. Nobody knew where she came from. No one had ever seen her before. She had no family in the town, no clan, no story that anyone could tell. Yet there she was, walking through the market as though she had lived among us forever. Her name was Camy. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can see her. Her skin glowed like the sun rising over the river, smooth, golden brown, flawless. Her eyes sparkled like the stars after a heavy rain, deep and mysterious. When she walked, the very wind seemed to carry her steps, so soft, so graceful, like a spirit gliding across the earth. But it was not her beauty alone that drew the eyes of men. Many women are beautiful, and in Baffo we had maidens whose beauty could make the bravest warrior stumble in speech. No, what made Camy different, what made men lose themselves, was the waist bead that rested against her hips. It was no ordinary bead, no common string of colors that women wore to charm their husbands. No, this one glowed faintly under the sun, and when Camy walked, it jingled softly, releasing a sound sweet and tempting, a rhythm that seemed to enter the heart and make it beat faster. "Do you hear that sound?" the men whispered. "What is it about her bead?" But no answer came. Camy walked every day through the market. She never lingered long. She bought little, she sold nothing. She simply walked, her bead singing its quiet song, her body swaying like a gentle river. And the men forgot themselves. They forgot their wives who had borne them children, their mothers who had nurtured them, their farms, their shops. Their eyes followed her. Their tongues stumbled with useless words. They fought among themselves to impress her, spending their money recklessly, seeking only her smile. And Camy noticed. She always noticed. Her lips curved in that small, knowing smile, and when she spoke, her voice was like silk brushing the ear. But she had one rule that no man could change. Whenever a man, burning with desire, sought her company in the secret of night, she never allowed him to touch her waist bead. "Not to speak of removing it," she would whisper, brushing her fingers against his cheek. "It must stay on, for it makes me sweeter." And the men believed her. Oh yes, they believed. Because once you were close to Camy, your mind no longer worked the way it should. That was their first mistake. The first man to fall into her snare was Tali. Tali was no ordinary man. He was the richest trader in Baffo. His shops lined the marketplace, bursting with goods from faraway lands, silks from the east, spices from the desert, beads from the coast, and gold that glittered like captured sunlight. His warehouses overflowed with wealth, his servants were many, his name carried weight. When Tali walked through the market, people stepped aside. When he spoke, men listened. When he spent, his money flowed like the great river after the rains. But the day he saw Camy, all his riches turned to dust in his eyes. I was there, standing by the blacksmith's stall, when she passed by his shop. Her bead jingled, her steps flowed, her eyes sparkled. Tali's hands trembled. His mouth fell open. His heart beat so loudly that even those beside him could hear. "I must have her," he whispered. That night, his messengers carried gifts to Camy's home. Yes, she had a house, though no one knew how she obtained it. Some said it appeared one day, standing near the edge of town, with walls smooth and strong as if built by unseen hands. Tali sent gold, he sent perfumes that smelled like heaven, he sent clothes finer than any woman in Baffo had worn. But Camy sent them back. The next night he sent more. The next and the next. Still, she refused. Tali could not sleep. He could not eat. His mind was filled only with her smile, her voice, the way her waist bead shimmered and sang when she walked. At last, he went himself. "Camy," he said, standing before her door, "I will give you anything. Just be mine." Camy tilted her head, her lips curling into a small smile. "Anything, anything," Tali swore. Her fingers, soft like silk, touched his hand. "Then take me home." And Tali's heart raced as he led her to his great mansion, a house bigger than any in Baffo. That night, the moon shone through the high windows as they lay together. Tali's hands, trembling, reached for her waist bead. His fingers brushed against it. The beads were smooth, cool, giving off a strange energy that made his body shiver. "Take it off," he whispered, his voice thick with longing. Camy's eyes glowed in the dim light. She smiled. "No," she whispered. "It makes me sweeter." And blinded by desire, Tali did not question her. He pulled her close, mindless of everything but her body and the sound of the beads. That was the last night he would ever sleep in that house. The next morning, disaster struck. News spread like wildfire. Tali's biggest warehouse was in flames. I rushed there with others, buckets of water in hand. The fire roared like an angry beast, devouring gold, fabrics, spices, everything. Smoke curled into the sky, black and heavy, as though the heavens themselves were mourning. People shouted, water was thrown, but nothing could quench the fire. By evening, the empire of Tali was ashes. He stood before it, his mouth open, his eyes empty. "How?" he cried. But misfortune did not stop. That very night, a storm unlike any we had ever seen descended upon Baffo. The wind howled like a spirit seeking vengeance. Lightning cracked the skies. Rain poured in sheets. By morning, Tali's mansion, the same house where Camy had lain with him, had collapsed under the fury of the storm. By the next day, Tali had nothing left. His warehouses, his wealth, his home, gone. And just when he thought things could not grow worse, his wife gathered their children, packed her things, and left. Everything Tali had built vanished like smoke. 2 weeks later, the great Tali, once the richest trader of Baffo, sat in the marketplace, dust covering his clothes, his hands outstretched, begging for food. People passed him, shaking their heads. "How did this happen?" they whispered. Tali himself did not know. But Camy knew. She walked through the market that day, her waist bead jingling softly, her smile sweet as ever. And more men stared, more men followed her with their eyes, not learning from Tali's fate. But Camy was not finished. For soon, her beauty caught the eyes of the greatest man in Baffo, King Okoli. Okoli was a man whose name carried thunder. His voice was law, his hands were heavy with power. He had wives, many wives. He had servants who ran at his command, warriors whose spears gleamed, and enemies who trembled at the sound of his name. He had everything. Until the day Camy walked into his sight. It was at the palace courtyard, during the festival of drums. Dancers spun, the air was alive with rhythm, the king sat high upon his golden throne. And then, Camy entered. The air changed. The drums faltered. The king's eyes locked on her, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. "Who is she?" he asked. "She is Camy, my king," a servant replied. "She has no family, no story. But every man in Baffo desires her." The king stroked his beard. "Then I must have her." Messengers were sent that evening, bearing gifts of gold, fine silks, and jewels. But Camy did not even look at them. "Tell the king," she said, her voice smooth as honey, "that if he wants me, he must come himself." No woman had ever spoken so to King Okoli. But instead of anger, he felt hunger. That night, the palace doors opened, and the king himself walked into Camy's small house. "Camy," he said, standing before her, "come to my palace." She smiled. "Only if you ask me with your heart, not your power." The king, who had never begged in his life, bent his pride for her. And so she followed him into the palace. That night, under the golden roof of the king's chamber, Camy lay beside him. He reached for her waist, his fingers brushing the cool beads. "Take it off," he said. Her lips curled into a smile. "No," she whispered. "It makes everything sweeter." The king, lost in desire, did not argue. And with that, he sealed his fate. 7 days passed after King Okoli lay with Camy in the palace. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The king still walked proudly, his chiefs bowed deeply, and his wives sang praises at his feet. But then, a shadow began to grow. It started with whispers among the king's closest men. "He has lost his power," they murmured in dark corners of the palace. "The gods have abandoned him." The palace guards, once sharp and loyal, now eyed him strangely. His servants no longer moved with urgency. His wives, who once competed to please him, avoided his chambers. And then the disasters began. The king's strongest warriors, men who had never known weakness, fell sick. One by one, they lay groaning in their huts, struck by a strange fever. His herds of cattle, once fat and plentiful, died overnight as if struck by invisible hands. Then, his treasures vanished. Gold, ivory, rare gems collected from distant lands, all gone, as though the earth had swallowed them whole. The people of Baffo grew restless. In the market, women hissed his name under their breath. Elders shook their heads and muttered, "He is no longer fit to rule." On the 7th night, the people gathered at the palace gates, their torches burning bright, their voices thunderous. "King Okoli must go," they cried. The king, once mighty, now stood alone. His chiefs had betrayed him, his warriors had lost faith, his people had turned against him. So, with nothing but the clothes on his back, King Okoli fled into the forest. His crown, his throne, his power, all left behind in the dust. And the next morning, Camy walked through the market, her waist bead jingling softly, her smile as sweet as ever. Another man had fallen. But Camy's hunger was not yet satisfied. Soon after the king's fall, there was another, Benji, the Banker. Benji was young, handsome, and blessed by the gods. He was smarter than men twice his age. While others struggled to count a handful of coins, Benji counted stacks of money in his bank office. His house had marble floors, his servants bowed deeply when he entered, and his wife was a beauty who turned heads when she walked. His children laughed like birds in the morning, bright and full of life. Everything was perfect. Until the day Benji heard the soft jingling sound in the market. He turned, and there she was, Camy. Her bead glowed faintly under the afternoon sun, her eyes deep and dark like the river at night. Benji forgot his wife. He forgot his children. He forgot his work. He only saw her. "Camy," he said, blocking her path. "I must have you." "Must?" she asked, tilting her head, smiling. Benji swallowed hard. "Please. I will do anything." Camy touched his hand gently. "Then come." That night, Benji lay beside her. His fingers trailed over her soft skin until they found the beads around her waist. "Why don't you take it off?" he asked. Her smile was like ripe mango. "No," she whispered. "It makes me sweeter." Benji, lost in desire, did not argue. The next morning, he woke like a man reborn, light-hearted, full of dreams. He kissed Camy, dressed quickly, and hurried to his bank. But the moment he stepped into his office, everything changed. His boss stood waiting, his face dark like thunder. "Benji," he barked. "Where is the missing money?" Benji froze. "What money?" "The millions you stole," his boss roared, slamming a hand on the desk. "The accounts show it was you." "I didn't steal anything," Benji protested, his stomach twisting. But before he could speak further, guards grabbed him by the arms and dragged him out. The people watched, whispering, "Benji the Banker, a thief?" By the time he reached home, his troubles had only deepened. His wife stood at the door, a letter in her hand, tears streaming down her face. The letter told her everything, the missing money, the accusations, the shame. "Benji," she whispered, "tell me it isn't true." He reached for her, but she stepped back. "I don't know who you are anymore. I cannot raise my children with a thief." She gathered her children, picked up her bags, and left. Just like that, the house was empty. 1 week ago, Benji had everything. Now, he had nothing. And he never understood why. But Camy knew. She walked through the market that day, her bead jingling softly, another smile playing on her lips. By then, the town of Baffo was no longer the same. Men fell one by one. Some lost their wealth overnight. Some lost their families. Some went mad, running through the streets with wild eyes, speaking to the air, laughing at shadows. At the center of it all was Camy. Her beauty remained untouched, her smile sweet, her waist bead still jingling. 17 men had lain with her. 17 men had fallen. The people whispered in fear. "It is bad luck," some said. "It is the gods," others murmured. The women of Baffo, seeing how men worshipped Camy, began to wear waist beads too. They hoped to turn heads like she did, to hold power over men. Their beads clinked in the marketplace, but nothing changed. Their beauty was just beauty. Their beads were just beads. Only Camy's bead carried the dark secret. And still, the men did not learn. They saw Tali go from riches to begging. They saw King Okoli flee into the forest. They saw Benji lose everything in a single week. But they told themselves, "It will not happen to me." So they followed her still, smiling, begging, willing to risk it all. Because when Camy walked past, and her waist bead jingled, and she looked at a man with that smile, his fate was sealed. And soon, she would meet the man who would change everything. His name was Bulma. Bulma was not like the others. He was a man without shame, without fear, without guilt. He had married 15 wives, and all 15 had left him, each one catching him with other women. But Bulma did not care. If one wife left, another would come. If one cried, he laughed. To him, women were nothing. So when he saw Camy, he did not chase her like the others. He did not send gifts or beg for her attention. He watched her. He studied her. He waited. Then one day, he walked up to her in the marketplace, his voice deep and steady. "I want you." Camy smiled, tilting her head as always. "Then have me," she said, running her fingers along his arm. Bulma smirked. He thought he had won. That night, in his house, Camy lay beside him, her body glowing under the candlelight. Bulma's hands roamed her skin. He had known many women, but none like her. She was different, powerful. Then his fingers touched the beads. Smooth, cold, strange. He frowned, running his hand over them again. "Take it off." Camy smiled knowingly. "No," she whispered. "It makes me sweeter." But Bulma was not like the others. His eyes narrowed. His voice grew hard. "No. Take it off." Her smile faltered. She leaned close, her breath warm against his ear. "You will enjoy it more with it on." But Bulma's face was stone. "I don't want you if you cannot take it off." For the first time, Camy's heart skipped. No man had ever refused her before. No man had ever questioned the waist bead. She tried to hide her fear. She rose from the bed, reaching for her dress. "Maybe next time," she said. But Bulma was watching closely. "There is no next time," he said coldly. She turned to leave, but before she could take a step, Bulma moved faster than she expected. His hand grabbed her wrist, his other hand reached for the waist bead. "Stop!" Camy shouted, twisting in his grip. But Bulma was strong, merciless. With one mighty yank, the bead snapped. The bead scattered to the ground. Camy screamed. Her body jerked violently, her eyes wide with horror. She clutched her stomach, gasping as though something inside her was burning, breaking. She ran out of the house, naked, her screams tearing through the night. The people rushed out of their homes, their eyes wide with shock. "Camy!" someone gasped. They had never seen her afraid. Never seen her weak. She ran through the streets, her hair wild, her body trembling, her voice crying words not her own. "I was nothing," she wailed. "I was a poor girl, no father, no mother, no food, no home." The crowd gasped. She fell to her knees, gripping the dirt. "I went to my grandmother, a woman of the spirits, a feared witch. I begged her for riches, for power. Her trembling hands pointed to the broken bead on the ground. "She gave me this. With every man who lay with me, I would take his fortune, his blessings, his strength. I needed 21 men. Then my power would be complete." Tears streamed down her face. Bulma was supposed to be the last, the 21st. The people stared, their faces dark with anger. Their fathers, their brothers, their husbands, Camy had destroyed them all. A woman picked up a stone. "You ruined my husband," she said, and threw it. Others followed. Stones rained down. Camy fell, her once beautiful body covered in dust and blood. And when her body grew cold, the people felt no peace. Because the men she had destroyed did not regain what was lost. Tali still begged in the marketplace. King Okoli still wandered the forest. Benji still lived in shame. Camy was gone, but the curse remained. And even now, on certain nights, when the wind blows softly through the trees, some swear they hear it, the faint jingling of waste beads. And so, my children, the people of Baffo learned. Not everything that glitters is gold. Not every sweetness is safe. Desire without wisdom leads only to destruction. That is the story of Camy, the waste bead woman of Baffo. And so, the people of Baffo learned that not everything sweet is safe, and not every beauty is a blessing. What lesson did you take from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African tales that carry wisdom and warning.